It's well known that the author of The Lord of the Rings was a Christian and indeed a Catholic. But it's less well known that he was not a Catholic his whole life. In fact, he was a convert. The first 8 years of his life were lived as a member of the Church of England. He was baptized at the Anglican Cathedral of Bloemfontein in South Africa and grew up his first 8 years of his life in the Church of England. And that didn't change until his mother, Mabel, became a Catholic when he was 8. And this meant that Tolkien had a distinct recollection of what life was like as an Anglican. He had a powerful memory. He could even remember vivid images of the voyage from South Africa when he was only 3 years old. And this change from the Anglican experience to the Catholic one was dramatic. Even the language changed. He had previously gone to church and heard the liturgy in English, and now it was in Latin, a language that at that point was new to him. So it was a big change for him, new prayers to learn, new experiences. And because he was 8, he was old enough that by Catholic reckoning, he was not just brought in along with his mother, but rather he was expected to make his own profession of faith and to be received as an adult when he made his first Holy Communion and confirmation, which he did when he was 11, just before his 12th birthday. So that marked a moment of decision, not just going along with his mother's faith, but affirming it for himself. Now this would soon be tested. Sadly, Mabel died when he was 12, leaving him and his brother Hilary as orphans under the care of Father Francis Morgan of the Oratory. And his family on both sides were Protestants, and they were not happy that their grandsons were Catholic. And there was a lot of family pressure for Tolkien and his brother to return to the Protestant faith of their dead father, Arthur. And had he done that, it would have been culturally accepted and approved. But he didn't. He didn't. He stuck with this faith that he had learned from his mother, but now was embracing in his own right. And he would have further opportunities to walk away from his faith. When he was an undergraduate at Oxford, he was one of a tiny minority of Catholics in an otherwise Anglican establishment. And it would have been easier and straightforward for him to just sort of drift back into Anglicanism. He was very sociable. He could have fit in very nicely as an Anglican. But although he had some rough spots, he held on to being a Catholic. And then this would be severely tested in the Great War, where he fought in the front lines in the trenches. Many men of his generation abandoned their faith entirely, and yet Tolkien came through it without losing his faith, indeed with a deepened faith. Then, as an adult academic, teaching at Leeds and then at Oxford, he was once again a tiny minority. There were very few Catholics in academia, and there would have been a lot of social pressure to just sort of mute his faith, compartmentalize it, perhaps even, again, revert back to Anglicanism. It would have made his social life more comfortable. It would have made his career a little bit smoother. It would have made life just easier for him. But he didn't do it. And indeed, he became a visible public Catholic as an academic. Again, showing that this wasn't just an inherited emotional attachment. This faith was something that he committed to again and again, consciously and then deliberately throughout his entire adult life. And that helps us see why it's worth looking at the story of his faith. This perseverance, this engagement, this depth, it really shows how much it meant to Tolkien and how much it influenced everything that he did. And of course, everything that he wrote, everything that came out of his creative imagination was shaped by this faith that he held on to through difficulties and reaffirmed at many different pivotal points in his life. It's an exciting story. It's interesting in its own right. And it also helps us better to understand the writings that he produced for us that we can enjoy so much, whether we share his faith or not. And understanding his faith just helps us to appreciate them all the more.